gives me great pleasure to introduce the first of our speakers, Philippe Diercxsens. He's the Packaging and Environmental Manager for Danone Waters, and he's going to be talking about the challenge of circular economy in plastics. Thank you, Philippe.
Good afternoon to all of you. I will modestly try to tell you what Danone is doing to try to put on the market more sustainable packaging. You know this figure, it's the growth of plastic that we use since the start of the massive use of plastic packaging in the 60s. And we know that the quantities of plastics that we will put on the market would even double or triple in the coming 20 or 30 years if we do not find alternatives, or at least we need to collect, sort and recycle correctly. You know the key challenges of plastic, that are the figures that were illustrated by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. That one is well known, the ratio of plastic to fish in the ocean. In my view, it is the most powerful ecological figure that I saw during the 30 last years. I don't know how they measure that, but at least it makes everybody aware about the problem. There are a lot of communications concerning plastic, the plastic soup. Last month or 2 months ago, you had the National Geographic with a very good topic on the subject. And my Dutch colleagues published a plastic soup atlas. I recommend to you all, at least those who can speak Dutch, to buy it because it's really well done. And the issue of National Geographic is in all the languages, so if you didn't see it, it's really interesting to read. Now, there are a lot of reasons to refuse single-use plastics. That is also something that you can read and you can see in a lot of publications. It's made from fossil fuel, it has a huge carbon footprint, it leaches toxins to the food and drinks, it kills marine animals, etc., etc. So all that negative communication about plastic, that is something that we have to live with for the time being. Now, concerning the legislation of today, we have what we call the Waste Framework Directive that was renegotiated now during the last months. And attached to that Waste Framework Directive, you have the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive and the Landfill Directive, which are of importance for us. The revision of the Packaging and the Packaging Waste Directive has increased a lot the minimum requirements for recycling plastics. Until today, we were at 22.5%, and now it is 50% in 2025 and 55% in 2030. Some will say it's huge, others will say it's not sufficient enough. And you see also that for other materials, there are increases that are foreseen. Now, what is more of direct importance for our business is the proposal of directive for the reduction of the impact of certain plastic products on the environment. It is what we call the Single-Use Plastic Directive that was published last 28th of May. And I pinpoint some important things for our business. It required the member states to collect 90% of single-use plastic bottles put on the market each year by 2025. So 90% of the bottles that we put on the market will have to be collected, at least. Today, on average, in Europe, we are at 50. There is a product requirement for beverage containers so that the caps and the lids remain attached to the container during the use of the product. And for the dairy products that we manufacture, member states shall take the necessary measure to achieve a significant reduction in the consumption of single-use plastic products. With our European Federation of Bottled Waters, we issued a press release where we told that we go for the 90% collection of the bottles that we put on the market. We know perfectly that if we not succeed to collect at least 90% of the bottles, well, I don't know what our business will become, but we will collect more and more criticism for the future. And so we know that we have to reach the figure of 90% at least. And the producer will include also at least 25% recycled PET, it's the plastic that we use for those bottles, in the production of new bottles. Now 90% PET bottle collection. That is a map that I made myself, so I'm the only responsible for that map. So it's not made by Danone, it's not made by our Bottled Water Federation, it's purely my assumptions. 90% collection of bottles will certainly be possible for countries that already today have a deposit return scheme. It is the case for Germany, it is the case for Denmark, it is the case for Norway. And between 80 and 90% deposit return collection via deposit return schemes will also be achieved by Sweden, Finland, 2 Baltic states, Holland, Croatia, all the countries that today have a deposit scheme. In light blue, you have the countries that have plans to introduce deposit schemes. Scotland, probably be the entire UK. France, where now deposit schemes are deeply under discussion. And Slovakia, Romania, and Malta have officially announced that they will also introduce deposit schemes. The countries in dark green are the countries that will collect between 80 and 90% of the bottles without deposit scheme, only with well-functioning collection and sorting schemes. You have Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, Spain is telling us that they will reach even 90% with their scheme. Let's see what that will give. Where you have more problems, it is in Portugal, Italy, and where you definitively will have problem to reach the 90% are all the countries in orange. How do you want to collect 90% of the bottles in a country like Greece, where you have 1,000 islands, if you don't have a deposit scheme? I can clearly tell you that I would never have spoken as such 3 years ago. My company was completely against deposit schemes 3 years ago. And the other beverage manufacturers were also against. Because it's a very expensive system, and because you extract very good material from the extended producer responsibility schemes. So you organize 2 collection schemes for packaging separately. But you have 2 important advantages for deposit schemes. The first is that you collect massively the bottle that you put on the market. And secondly, the quality of the material that you collect is extraordinarily good. And so that material, you can use it in closed loop. The tethered caps issue, you already see at least one brand, Cristalline in France, who has designed a cap that is attached to the bottle. We will also need to do that probably if the single-use plastic directive is voted as such. We have in fact signed a letter with 3 other big bottled water and soft drink manufacturers where we tell that in fact it is better, in our opinion, to invest a lot of money in the good functioning deposit schemes instead of to invest in attaching the caps to the bottles. Because when you have deposit schemes, you have more than 90% of the bottles that comes back with the caps attached on it. So it's maybe exaggerated to have the 2 requirements. In the single-use plastic directive, you have the following requirement: 1 person portion-sized food containers of fresh or processed food that does not need further preparation, such as fruits, vegetables, desserts or ice creams, sold by single unit. We need to prove a reduction of those products coming on the market. So it's the first time in my life that I see a requirement of negative growth, you see? That will be very, very difficult for a company, I must confess that. I don't know how they will do that. So all the products sold by 2 or by 4 or by 6 or by 8 are not covered by the single-use plastic directive. Why? Because those products, you buy them and you consume them at home. So they enter it logically in a collection scheme and they will not contribute to grow the marinator problem. But the individual cups sold maybe in gasoline station and so on, in small fast food and so on, there can be a problem. And so the law requires that we reduce placing on the market of such products. All will be to know how we are going to do that, how member states are going to control that. It will not be an easy task, but a lot of discussions are needed for that. Now, when you see for Danone, my company I'm working for, our global packaging value chain is as follows. We are essentially a plastic and a board company. We are using a little bit glass, a little bit metal packaging, but the lion's share of the material that we use is plastic and board. We put on the market 625 kilotons of plastic worldwide and 350 kilotons of board, of which at the upstream 65% comes from fossil resources, 8% comes from is biosourced, and 27% is recycled material. We use the packaging, and at the end, still today, 52% of our packaging are landfills. Of course, it is worldwide. The figures for Europe are much more reduced, of course. In Europe, we landfill maybe 15 or 16%, which is too much, I confess it. But you see immediately that the big problem that a company such as Danone has is the way packaging waste is managed in emerging countries. 6% of our packaging is energy recovered, and 42% is recycled worldwide. So our aim, of course, is to lower this one a lot and to increase this one a lot. No, we will not insist on that. Packaging is also useful, has a lot of positive aspects. I will focus a little bit now on polyethylene, the bottles that we use for water. Already 10 years ago, we created design for recycling guidelines for PET. In fact, a PET bottle is not something that is very easy You have to take into account the size and the shape, the weight, the resin grade, the tolerance, the barrier technologies. All those things can make a PET bottle different from another one. We have created the European PET bottle platform. You will see here the website. And the main objective of the platform is to evaluate PET bottle manufacturing technologies and products and allow new PET bottle innovations while minimizing the economic and environmental consequences for the European PET recycling industry. In fact, when you go on the website, you will see that it's a list of things that a PET bottle or a filler, like for Danone, for example, is allowed to do. That is the green column. What we are allowed to do on the condition, and what we absolutely ask to all the PET bottle users and manufacturers not to do. The list is much longer than that. It's a snapshot of the list, and you will see that for each part of the bottle, you will have recommendations, and you have, when you click on all those terms, you have a kind of menu where you can read a lot of explanations about the different technical features of a PET bottle. This is a kind of big success that is frequently used by the European Commission as a good example of what, in fact, the other plastics need to do also. We need design for recycling guidelines, not only for PET, we need them for polyethylene, for polypropylene, for all the plastics that we use. Now, PET is a material that has greatly progressed on an environmental point of view since the beginning that it was used. We started the use, in fact, in 1995. It replaced PVC. And then you had the use of recycled PET in food product application. We started in 2003. And then you have the manufacturing of PET that is produced via natural resources, plants and so on, and bacteria. We started in 2010. And then between this year and 2025, we are fully in a process of studying and adapting chemical recycling to recycle PET that we collect. We want to increase also the percentage of the share of recycled PET in our bottles. Today we are on average on 25% in 2018, and we want to go within 2 years to 50%. It's very ambitious, but we will try to do that. We produce PET via renewable feedstock. In the beginning, we started to make the plastic from the edible parts of plants, which is absolutely something that we cannot continue to do because plants are made to be eaten and not to make plastics. But today we are fully in a process where you use the feedstock not suitable for food and feeds, like bagasse, wood chips, switchgrass, and so on. And in the future, we hope also to have the possibility to use algae extracted from the sea to make also conventional plastics. We have signed an agreement with our biggest competitor, Nestlé Waters, and the company Micromidas to develop 100% bio-PET. So the bottles that we put on the market will more and more be made with 100% bioplastics. You have several benefits to use bioplastics. It saves fossil resources. It reduces the environmental footprint of our packaging. You can use a feedstock with a lower price volatility than oil. And of course, it improves the acceptability to many households. We have another field where we also have, we make a lot of research. It is the chemical recycling of PET. We have signed an agreement with the company Loop Industries, and Loop Industries is a public-owned company in the US, created in 2014. And in fact, they developed a technology based on hydrolysis by solvents. And what is important to say, it is at room temperature and at atmospheric pressure. So the technique for chemical recycling of PET becomes affordable on a financial point of view. So we probably and hopefully will be able to chemically recycle all the PET bottles that we put on the market, and we have a pledge to that at least the PET bottles from the brand Evian will fully be chemically recycled between now and 2025. You see, that is the genius inventor of that new chemical recycling process. His name is Daniel Solomita. And you see, in fact, the hope that we have to include more and more recycled PET in our bottles coming from chemical recycling. For us, PET is not so much a problem anymore. We will grow, we will have more and more, we will green our PET more and more. Where we face bigger problems, it is for polystyrene. Polystyrene that we use for yogurt cups. You see, as a difference, the difference that I can show with PET bottles is that in fact the polystyrene cups have practically no evolution on an environmental point of view during 34 years. In fact, in the beginning we used board cups with a kind of paraffin coating, and then polystyrene was substituted in the board cups. But during 34 years there was no evolution of that polystyrene. You had only a kind of evolution in the shape of the cup to allow the consumer to empty the yogurt cup better and to save some food. It is not to save packaging material, it is to tackle the problem of food waste. But you see, PS polystyrene is the perfect example of a linear material. It is not a circular material. So today we have two options. Or we recycle it, we collect it massively, which will be a problem, or we switch to other material. And we are today working very hard on the switch to switch polystyrene into PET, polypropylene, PLA, which is an industrially biodegradable polymer that we use in Germany. But today PLA is not collected and sorted separately out of Germany. It's only the case in Germany. Or go back to board packaging. And we have two prototypes today to possibly go back from polystyrene again to board packaging. It's a special type of board. I'm not in the secrets, but it's a kind of board packaging where the cellulose molecules are chemically treated to give a kind of water repellent aspect like classical plastic have. Here you see the advantages of polystyrene and the disadvantage. The biggest disadvantage is the very poor recycling future. And also that the quantities of polystyrene that are collected are very low in comparison to the quantities of PET that we collect in a country such as France, but it's everywhere the same. Today, the collection schemes that you have in Europe differ highly the one from the other. And what is not normal today is that, for example, for a yogurt cup made out of polystyrene, in the Netherlands, you will pay more than 0.6 euro per kilo for collection and sorting of that packaging material. And in a country like Poland, you will pay almost nothing. So that cannot continue. You need to pay a reasonable price for collection and sorting, otherwise it will never happen. You see today that the performance of the EU member states concerning collection, sorting and recycling is very different from one country to another. The countries performing the best are the countries that have banned the packaging material that are landfilled. You are not allowed anymore to landfill any plastic packaging material in 9 countries in Europe: Switzerland, Austria, the Netherlands, Germany, Sweden, Luxembourg, Denmark, Belgium and Norway. And in the countries that still allow landfilling, well, you see the red triangle is something that we absolutely need to reduce. And you see that countries like Greece and Bulgaria still landfill more than 80% of the plastic packaging put on the market. So that is something that cannot continue. If some countries are able to stop this, well, the others can do the same. I will stop here. Thank you for your attention and good afternoon.